First things first, if you're a Titan main, I'm sorry for what Bungie did to you with Titan Prismatic. Y'all deserved better. Be that as it may, the tier list is the tier list. We must go on. Once again, this is about objectivity, about math, about numbers, what gets the most kills, what does the most damage, not necessarily about what is fun. If you think something sounds fun, you should use it whether or not it's on the D tier or the A tier. Speaking of tiers, we've redone the tiers a little bit. So first we have our Abeyant Leap pairings, or the Spirit of Abeyance. So this is the noticeable part of Abeyant Leap. So you have the 3 lashes that come out when you drop your barricade from Dranger's Lash. The thing we've lost from the actual Abeyant Leap is that you do not get Woven Mail when you cast it. But that's okay, I guess. That's not the end of the world. I think Abeyant is very good. I think Spirit of the Abeyant is incredible for like crowd control in all facets of content. It really shines in endgame content as well, like GMs, where you can suspend literally any champion. Stuns unstoppables. It doesn't technically stun barriers, but it makes it so they can't put their shield up. So like that kind of counts as a stun in my book because they can't do the thing that makes them champions. So I think it's very, very good. Pair it up with Star Eaters. Star Eaters are pretty decent on Titan because you have some really respectable damage supers, right? Twilight Arsenal with Star Eaters, especially in this season with Expanding Abyss, so you can do a bunch of bonus damage when you chuck your axes. Very, very good angle there. A Glacial Quake, as far as I've heard, in certain circumstances, if the boss is on the ground and you know how to use it, this super can be like the highest damage super in the entire game. You pair that with Star Eater, 70% damage buff to that. I can see some angles where that is pretty ridiculous. So I'm going to put this one in the almost worth not running Banner of War Strand Titan tier. This is our equivalent to our A tier. So it's like, listen, it's not going to be the best of the best, but like this, it's pretty solid. You can get a lot of mileage out of that. That can be very, very good. Looking at our Abeyant Synthoceps, everyone knows what Synthoceps does. Massive melee damage bonuses. And when you're working with Titan, Prismatic Titan rather, which has a ton of really good melee damage options, you got, like, this can be pretty solid. My one issue with this that, like, has me wondering if it should go in the story, spoilers, by the way, I'm gonna give you 5 seconds, in the Zavala's Ghost Wouldn't Be Dead tier. This is, like, the tier where it's like, hey, if, you know, if Zavala was running this build, then when he went inside the goo wall to go talk to the witness, he would have just beat him instead of Targe having to come in and rescue him. My one problem with this is, if you want to go Synthoceps, you probably also want to go Knockout for the melee damage bonus and Consecration, because that's by far the best like melee option on Prismatic Titan, which means if you're running both of those, you can't run Dranger's Lash to take advantage of Abeyant Leap. So you either have to give up the best melee option for Titan, a massive melee damage bonus, and heal on every melee kill, or you can't even use Dranger's Lash and can't even use the Abeyant portion. So I'm going to say this is not necessarily S tier. I want to put it in S tier because both of the perks are awesome for Titan. But the fact that you have to like sacrifice something to be able to actually get benefits out of both of the perks here moves it down just a little bit. Abeyant and Contact. I think Contact is really good on Titan. Upon scoring a powered melee hit, zap everything, which does some respectable damage, and you jolt everything. And jolt is no joke. Like, jolt is really good. It's like for follow-up damage, being able to like whip a melee at a boss and jolt it so that you continuously proc the jolt over and over again. Like, that's pretty good. Especially if you're doing something like Consecration Titan, where your first wave up does the electric burst and jolts it, and then your second wave coming down procs the jolt and gets that, makes that jolt damage proc happen. Couple that with Abeyant, where you get to cast your class ability, you suspend everything, can't really fight back. I think that's very good. I don't think it's S tier good, but definitely I'll put it in our A tier. I think that's very solid. Abeyant Scars. Scars kind of is like a very general like safety thing, but the thing is Abeyant is also a very safety thing. So it's like I think a lot of people are going to look at this combo and say like, oh yeah, that's definitely an S tier. But I think like they're both more defensive survivability aspects, and I'm not entirely sure that you need all of that healing, all of that crowd control, all that. Like, I think it's maybe a little overkill in certain situations, and I think you could justify giving up one of these to pick up like a more offensive perk, something that gives you more ability regeneration, something that gives you more damage, something of that nature, right? So I'm not gonna quite put it in S tier, but I think it's a great, like, I'm very hard to kill build. and I'm cool with that. Abeyant Verity's Brow. So Verity's Brow is kind of interesting. There's not a lot of Titan grenades that like are particularly fantastic, and as such, like Verity's Brow obviously goes very much in the grenade. Like you're not going to use Verity's Brow with Suppressor Grenade. You're certainly not going to use it with Shackle Grenade or Glacier Grenade. Glacier Grenade on Prismatic Titan is just kind of troll, because you don't really have any of like the stasis aspects or fragments that synergize well with stasis stuff, right? Like you don't have Cryoclasm where you can slide through the Glacier Grenade. You have to pop the shards, the crystals manually. Like that sounds like a pain. Thermite Grenade could be fine. Pulse Grenade could be fine. Especially with Pulse Grenade, you can run the Facet of Dominance where it jolts targets. So like there's an angle there. What's interesting about Verities is that it also buffs Unbreakable, because Unbreakable is based on grenade damage. So like the blast you do from Unbreakable, like that is buffed by Verities. So there is something there. Is it good enough to like put it in one of these high tiers? I don't think so. I think I'll put it in the won't get kicked section, where it's like if you join an LFG team, they're not going to praise you for your build, but like they're not going to be like, nah, you're trolling, get out of here. But I just don't think I would put it in the same territory as like Abeyant Star Eater, Abeyant Syntho, things of that nature, right? Next we've got with Alpha Loopy, which I think is decent. I think this build could be decent, right? Because Alpha Loopy basically does what Bastion does, where when you cast your barricade, you get like a bunch of health and you get shields. And you give it to your allies as well. And obviously with an Abeyant build, if you're like specking into casting your barricade as much as possible, you know, you go your rally barricade. So if you have tier 10 resilience, which you probably always do if you're running Titan, you have it on a 22-second cooldown. So you get it off a lot. Again, this kind of falls into the same category of like you have 2 survivability perks. And I feel like this isn't as potent as Precious Scars is in terms of how often it gets procced and how often you're getting the healing benefits. So I'm going to put it 1 tier lower because I think Abeyant Scars does the same thing that Abeyant Loopy would do, but just not quite as good. Abeyant Horn. This is going to be one of those builds where it's like everyone is going to talk about it and they're like, oh my god, it's so good. Think about it. On 1 barricade cast, you send out all the lashes and suspend everything, and you send out the fire wave that can go forward, scorch targets, and then come back and ignite them. My thing is that, like, while it sounds very cool, and it's like this, like, if you imagine it, you're like, oh, on paper, that's so good. Think about it. You just do a barricade spam build. It's like, yeah, sure, but, like, at the end of the day, why are you specking into that when you can just run up at a pack of enemies and do consecration on them and then they're all dead? It's like, it seems like more effort to do the same thing, a less powerful version of the same thing. It's going to look really cool, but it's not going to be really, really strong. So I'll put it in won't get kicked, because I think it's like, it's kind of a fun, goofy meme build. It's got that like theme to it, right? That's about as high as it's going to go. Abeyant and Armamentarium is going to be our first in the that one horse drawing tier. And when I say that one horse drawing, I'm talking about this one. We've used this here in our other tier list because like it is a perfect representation of these types of pairings. One of the perks is this, and then the other perk is this. Armamentarium is just not that great on Prismatic Titan. One, because when you compare it to the other options that you have available, like you have Synthoceps available, you could be running Contact, you could be running, like you could be running Star Eater. There's so much better stuff that you can be doing than Armamentarium. And if you look at the grenade options for Prismatic Titan, like, do you really care in PvE? Do you care that much about having double Suppressor Grenade? Do you really care that much about having double Shackle Grenade when you can instead just run Abeyant and rip your class ability every 22 seconds? Do you care about having double Glacier Grenade? Double Thermite Grenade? Yeah, maybe I'll give you that one. And double Pulse Grenade definitely has merits to it if you're rocking and rolling with the fragment where the Pulse Grenade jolt targets. You can also make the argument that, hey, Mac, this is really good if you run Unbreakable, because now you have 2 grenade charges that you can use for Unbreakable. But there's just, like, there's so many better options to accomplish what you would be doing in that situation, right? Do you want double grenade, or do you want like way more damage on all of your melee hits with this? It's fine. It's so, right? Now we have our Assassin's Cowl pairings. Assassin's Cowl, here's my problem with Assassin's Cowl on Titan. If you're running Assassin's Cowl, or Spirit of the Assassin, where you go invisible on your powered melee kills, it means that you're going to be speccing into a melee-based build, which on Prismatic Titan makes sense. But if you are speccing into a melee-based build, then it also means you're probably speccing into Knockout, which gives you pretty much a full heal anytime you kill a pack of enemies with a powered melee kill. And so I don't really see why you need to be going invisible on killing a bunch of enemies when you're getting a full HP heal after you kill all of them. And you might say, well, Mac, it's so that I don't have to run Knockout. I can run a melee build and I don't have to run Knockout. It's good. But then I would say, well, if you want to run a melee-based build on Titan, why on God's great earth are you not running Knockout? You can if you want to. If you're like, oh, I just think it would be more fun to run Consecration and Dranger's Lash, or I think it'd be more fun to run Unbreakable or Diamond Lance. And my response to that will be like, cool, that sounds fun, but it's not good. So I feel like Assassin's Cowl just doesn't make a lot of sense on Prismatic Titan. And as such, a lot of the ratings are going to be a little rough. Pair it with Alpha Loopy, I'm going to say that's decent if you're running it in strikes. And everything's decent if you run it in strikes. Pair it with Armamentarium, so-so. Pair it with Contact. I'll give it the 1 horse drawing because you pair it up with Contact. That makes sense. Pair it up with Kepri's Horn. Pair it up with Precious Scars. I'll give it the horse drawing just because of Precious Scars. Same thing with the Star Eater pairing. I know a lot of people are going to say that Assassin's Cowl and Synthoceps, it makes perfect sense. It's a match made in heaven, right? You get bonus melee damage, which means it's easier to get powered melee kills, which means it's easier to go invisible off of those powered melee kills. But once again, if you're running a melee-based build, like, you're running Knockout, right? And you're going to get a full heal when you kill a couple targets with the melee when you're running Knockout. So it doesn't make sense to me. It doesn't, like, the pairing, it feels overkill. It feels like it's trying to do something that inherently the Prismatic Titan building blocks already do. I'll leave it and won't get kicked, because if you want to make the argument that's like, no, Mac, it's good for a Grandmaster Nightfall, because I'm allowed to go in, kill one enemy, and I go invisible, and that will get me out in a situation where getting the heal wouldn't get me out. Fine. And then Assassin's Cowl Verity. Next, we have the Spirit of the Bear pairings. I do not know why they made Spirit of the Bear. I don't understand why this exists. When you have, like, Spirit of the Caliban and Spirit of the Liar on Hunter, and then you turn around on Titan and you get Spirit of the Bear. This is horrible. Unbreakable grants up to 12.5% super energy? Whoop-de-doo. You reduce your movement speed penalty? Why? That's horrible. Like, I'm gonna call it what it is. We're gonna call a spade a spade. It's horrible, right? Like, pretty much all of these. Like, I don't even want to put these in that 1 horse drawing tier, because yes, Contact is really, really good, but it's like, it's like anti-synergy here. Like, why? I'll put in that 1 horse tier because, like, Contact is really good. Synthoceps is really good. But it's like, a lot of that, like, why? Why? Most of them go down here. I'm sorry. It is what it is. You could say that, like, oh, Armamentarium's really good because you pair it with Spirit of the Bear, and then I get double Unbreakable. Fine. That 1 horse drawing. Fair enough. Fine. Spirit of the Eternal Warrior, unfortunately, another one where I'm like, why? It sounds good, right? Grants X4 super element matching weapon surge for 30 seconds. I will admit, 30 seconds is a long time. It lasts literally the entire DPS phase. Also, okay, here's my merit for this one, okay? I was originally going to say, like, this sucks. I'm putting them all in F tier because it's one of those where it's like you only get use of it for 30 seconds out of every 5 minutes, right? Because you only get it after you do your super. But the thing is, if you want to make the argument that it's like, oh, well, Mac, I can swap to something with Spirit of the Eternal Warrior as I'm walking into the DPS phase, and then I can throw my Twilight Arsenal, and then I can pull out my Edge Transit, and then my Edge Transit has a 25% buff for the entirety of the DPS phase. And I'd say, like, okay, that's fair. That's a fair argument, right? But I would also say, by that same logic, couldn't you switch your boots to something that has triple Void Weapon Surge, which gives you a 22% weapon damage buff, which is 3% less than Spirit of the Eternal Warrior, and then you pick up 1 Orb of Power from one of your hunters who hits the boss with a Celestial Nighthawk Golden Gun, and then boom, basically the same effect, right? Because, like, if you want to make the argument that it's good because you can hot swap to it, then you also have to be willing to make the argument that you can hot swap to a boots with triple Void Weapon Surge and swap to a class item with time dilation. So it's like, you know, you pick up 2 orbs of power with time dilation, that's the same duration as what Spirit of the Eternal Warrior would give you. So it's like, I know people are going to tell me, it's like, oh, Spirit of the Eternal Warrior, Star Eaters, I can hot swap to it. And then boom, that's like my DPS phase setup. And then I swap back to whatever else I had. Fine, I'll put that in won't get kicked, whatever. A lot of it's not good. So we're going to put most of these in decent in strikes. Contacts, Scars, and Synthoceps I'll put up in that 1 horse drawing for the merits of the pairings. And then the other ones go down here. Hoarfrost, Spirit of the Hoarfrost. Another one where it's like, dude, what did you guys, like, why is Bungie so pissed at you guys? I don't understand it. Bruh. Spirit of the Hoarfrost, Spirit of the Bear, Spirit of the Eternal Warrior, Spirit of the Horn. Like, what's going on here? And then, like, the selections you got for Prismatic Titan, anything outside of Knockout, Consecration, Frenzied Blade, it's like, it's brutal. I don't understand, because, like, here's my thing, right? Spirit of the Hoarfrost, First of all, you can only run exotic class items on Prismatic Titan. But the entire point of making a bunch of stasis crystals on Titan is because of the synergies that Stasis Titan has with the stasis aspects and the stasis fragments. But you don't get any of those synergies if you're running Prismatic Titan. So why do you care so much about making a ton of stasis crystals everywhere? Like, sure, you can run the Facet of Ruin, where you get bigger shatters. Like, that's fine. But, like, you don't get Cryoclasm, where you can slide through... Well, you gonna manually pop all the crystals? It's just... Ugh. Just not, like, it doesn't make sense. The synergy, it seems like an afterthought. It's not great. So we're going to put most of these down here. Again, I know, it's unfortunate. We'll, you know, the ones, some of them can have the horse drawing tier. I'll put Hoarfrost and Horn in the horse drawing tier as well, because, you know, oh, Mac, it's the barricade popping power fantasy. I make the stasis ice crystal wall, and I send the fire thing. You know, you can say that. I don't know if this works like this, but if you want to go like, oh, I popped the stasis crystal wall, Spear of the Horn sends out the fire, it hits all the enemies, and then it comes back, and on its return, it breaks the crystals. Again, that's another thing where it's like, dude, that sounds so cool. The synergy's there, it's perfect, such perfect synergy. Is that really going to do that much damage? My response to that, similar to my response to the other one, where it was like a Abeyant Horn, is Consecration. Whoop. Like, if you're going to be that close range, ta-da, right? Inmost Light, finally. We have some good stuff to work with here. And I think if you pair it with Alpha Loopy, there's merits to this, right? Because the idea is that, like, you're cycling your abilities, which means you cast your Barricade a ton, which means you get the healing benefits of Alpha Loopy a ton. And you can say, like, oh, well, it's so I can be a team player. I'm a team player, you know? I'm healing all my allies. Great. Put you in the won't get kicked here. Inmost Light, Armamentarium. I just don't, like, Armamentarium's not that good on Prismatic Titan. It's not. Their grenade options are not that good. You can maybe say, let's say it's a world where, like, you build into Unbreakable and you have double Unbreakable charges and you're getting a bunch of grenade regen to fuel your Unbreakables through Inmost Light. But, like, still, I think it belongs here. There's just so many better options. Like, right here. Why are you going Inmost Light with Armamentarium when you can go Inmost Light with Synthoceps? S tier. Easiest S tier of my life. Are you kidding me? That's crazy. That's so good. At least you guys got that, I guess, right? I hate being negative. I wish I could put all these in S tier. Oh my god, we only have this many left, and oh god. Inmost Scars. High ability uptime, and a lot of healing. But you don't get to use Synthoceps. I don't think it's S tier, but I'm comfortable putting it here. I think that's good. I think they both do really good stuff. Same thing with this and Starry. Well, I don't know. The Titan supers, from a damage perspective, are pretty solid. Is Inmost Light Star Eater's S tier? I think you can call that S. It's a generous S. It's not, like, definitive the way that Inmost Synthos is. But I think, yeah, I think Star Eater is something you want to hot swap to. I've been seeing a lot of people say that. Star Eater is not something that you can hot swap to, unless you have 6 orbs of power chilling in front of you, right? It's like, no. You need to pick up 6 orbs before you actually get the 70% benefit of Star Eater. That's not as hot swappable as something like Celestial Nighthawk, where you, like, don't need any prep whatsoever, right? Inmost Light Contact. It's a lot of jolting. It's a lot of ability uptime. I think yeah. What do you guys think? It's a comfortable A. You guys think A? Yeah, I kind of agree. I don't know if it's quite S tier. Yeah, I like that. Yeah, we'll put that there. Inmost Kepris, yeah, Horse Shrine. Inmost Verity. I'll give it, like, if you want to, listen, I think this plays way more into the, like, so where did I put Inmost Armamentarium in that one Horse Shrine, because I was like, hey, you know, you might want to say, Mac, this allows you to play into the Unbreakable power fantasy and spamming Unbreakables. Inmost Verity lets you play way more into that power fantasy, because you're getting significantly increased damage buffs for Unbreakable, and you're probably with Inmost still getting it up very, very frequently. Like, this is just a better version of Inmost Armamentarium, in my opinion. So we'll go there. Our Ophidians tier. Obviously, we know how this has been going. Ophidians, it's a PvP exotic. This is a PvE tier list. So a lot of these, you know, some of them will go in that one Horse Shrine tier just because they're coupled, you know, a couple with Star Eaters, a couple with Synthos, fine. Finally, we have the Severance Enclosure pairings. I want to get one thing out of the way real quick. I already know a ton of people are going to go, Mac, Severance Enclosure plus Contact, you get double explosions upon scoring a powered melee hit, strike everything with lightning and jolt everything, and then when you get a powered melee kill, kinetic explosion. That's crazy. No way. Hear me out. One, I tested this combo. it sucked. So there's that. Spirit of Severance damage is pitiful. It is not good. It is really, the damage is a joke. Second of all, you need to get a powered melee kill or a finisher. So you need to defeat a target to proc this, compared to something like Spirit of the Contact, where you just need to get a melee hit. Second of all, this doesn't do any status effects to any enemies. Spirit of Contact jolts enemies. Jolt is bonus follow-up damage. And finally, like, this is one of those, like, it sounds so good on paper, right? Oh my god, Mac, you do the Spirit of Contact, and you get an arc explosion and a kinetic explosion. But here's how this actually goes in practice. You're telling me that frequently you're running into situations where you hit an enemy, it procs the Spirit of Contact, and it jolts all the enemies. And it kills some of the enemies to proc Spirit of Severance, but not all of the enemies, so that there is something left over for the Severance Explosion to actually damage. And then the damage of the Severance Explosion is enough to kill the remaining enemies that the Consecration Melee plus Spirit of Contact, Lightning and Jolt was not able to kill? How frequently is that actually happening in actual gameplay? I tested it. The answer is, like, pretty much never. Furthermore, like I said, Spirit of Severance damage, it's terrible. It's real, like, it's a joke. I was running around in Patrol, and there was, like, a Subjugator, and I literally did, like, 1/10 of his HP with Severance damage. It's unfortunate. Severance is bad. It's really bad. Like, just use Contact. I'll put some of them in Horse Shrine, like we said, just because, you know, you're pairing it with Synthoceps, pairing it with Star Eaters, you know, fair enough, but a lot of these is just not great. So, here's what we're looking at right now. A lot in the D and F tier, which is really unfortunate. You guys got a lot of decent options when it comes to, like, Dranger's Lash Abeyant builds. Obviously, Inmost Light is prime. It's peak. You have some goofy stuff going on if you want to go like the Inmost Light Verities to buff Unbreakable route and have Inmost Light to get a lot of Verity energy back. You got some meme builds if you really want to say like, oh, I can suspend and then I got Kepri's Horns. But at the end of the day, Prismatic Titan was built to be Frenzied Blade, Knockout, Consecration, something to buff the melee damage of that, which is Synthoceps, something to buff your ability regeneration so you can do it more frequently, and maybe some CC options, maybe some healing options, and maybe some super bonus damage options. That's what Prismatic Titan was built to be. I'm not denying that there's not some fun, goofy builds that you can do here, but I'm not going to make a tier list to tell you what is fun, because fun is subjective. This is a tier list about what is going to be effective in difficult content. And at the end of the day, a lot of the Titan pairings are just not great. This wraps up the exotic class item pairing tier lists. Hopefully I don't get raked across the coals for this because I put a combo that you like in a low tier. Like I said with all of them, I'm not the arbiter of what you can and cannot use. If I put something you like in a low tier, but you're like, nah, Mac, it's really fun, please do continue to use it. This is not about which builds are fun and which builds are not fun. Hope you enjoyed it. Hope it gave you some insights as to what is solid on Titan. Thank you so much for watching, and as always, have a great day.